Nope.
Hello, dear listener, and thank you for joining me in this week's video. With St. Patrick's Day right around the corner, I figured leprechauns would be a great topic for this week's video. The legend of the leprechaun is one of the most enduring myths in Ireland. According to fables, leprechauns are tiny entities that normally take the form of an old man in a red or green coat. They are known to be mischievous little creatures that like to make shoes and store their gold coins in a pot of gold that's often hidden at the end of a rainbow. If you ever happen to capture a leprechaun, he will give you 3 wishes, provided you let him go. Most leprechaun legends can be traced back to the 8th century tales of water spirits known as Leprechaun, which means small body. It is said that these spirits merged with household fairies and developed a penchant for heavy drinking, so no cellar was safe. According to other researchers, the term leprechaun actually comes from the Irish term Leith Brogan, which means shoemaker. It is interesting to note that leprechauns are often associated with wealth, particularly gold coins, but they are actually cobblers, a position that is not often associated with large amounts of profit. Nowadays, mostly, pretty much completely due to the movie series Leprechaun, these creatures are also sometimes associated with the macabre. The following are 5 alleged sightings of what could be leprechauns. Let's begin. Number 1. This takes place a few years ago when I was about 7. My family and I were up in the mountains for a camping trip. It was me, my brother, my dad, and my mom. The place we were staying in was surrounded by thick forest. We had been there before, so my brother and I knew how to explore the forest properly, getting in and out if we ever got lost. Anyway, my family and I make it to the campsite, and I jump out of the car with my brother. We wait for our parents to finish setting up before asking them if we can go into the forest to explore. They say yes and tell my brother to keep an eye on me, since I was a curious kid and tended to wander off a lot. We explored the woods for a little bit before beginning a game of hide and seek. My brother agreed to be it first and began counting as I scurried off and started to find a good hiding place. I found a tree that was hollow on the inside and large enough where I can fit inside with no problem. I crawled in and remained quiet. I sat in the tree for a few minutes while I heard my brother calling my name, trying to find me. I was about to peek my head out of the entrance when I noticed something shiny on the ground. I bent over and picked it up. It was a gold coin, but it didn't seem like an average $1 coin or anything that I'd ever seen before. It had some type of weird design on it. I came out of the hiding place and found my brother. I showed him the coin. My brother took it and started to inspect it closer. "That's cool," he mumbled, and gave it back to me. Clearly, he wasn't too interested. A little while later, he suggested we go back to the campsite, and took my hand as we started to walk back. When we were almost at the end of the forest, I heard what sounded like someone running behind us. I looked up at my brother, and his face was clearly showing that he had heard it too. We both turned around, and we froze. I know my brother saw it too. From behind a tree that couldn't have been more than 10 feet away, a small, black figure was peering at us. It was pretty late in the evening and the sun had almost completely set, so it was hard to figure out exactly what it was that was looking at us, but we didn't really care to stick around and find out. My brother began to run, yanking me by the hand with him. We got back to the campground out of breath from running. I noticed that during all the commotion, I had dropped the coin somewhere on the path. When I opened my hand and searched my pockets, I found nothing. I still don't know what we saw, but I'm pretty sure it was related to that coin. Number 2. About 15 years or so ago, my mom and I decided to go for a walk. A little background. I live in the desert Southwest, and at the time, there were few houses in my neighborhood. People were still building and moving in, and it wasn't uncommon to have streets with very few houses on them. We went for a walk down the street around dusk. As we were walking and chatting, we noticed an old man walking towards us. We nod and say something to the effect of "good evening," and he does the same. It was a warm, friendly exchange. He passes us, and my mom and I kind of give each other a look. This man was shorter than average, wearing dark shorts with suspenders, and wore a hat with a feather in it. He had buckle shoes and wore white socks that went up his calves. He looked very out of place. For some reason, I decided to turn around, and when I did, he was gone. It was an almost empty street with dirt lots. There was nowhere he could have gone that fast. My mom and I like to joke that we saw a leprechaun that day. Who knows? Number 3. At the time of this story, I was living in Massachusetts, approximately 30 minutes east of Boston. I was 7 years old and spending the night at my friend's house. I woke up before her the next morning. When I woke up, I saw what appeared to be a little green man on the sill of her window next to her bed I was sleeping on. He jumped down from the sill onto the footboard of the bed and then went down to the floor, and I never saw him again. After that incident, and trying to wrap my head around what I had just saw, the room appeared to get very dim, despite it being very bright outside just moments before. That's when I saw 3 smoky, gray, opaque figures standing at the foot of the bed and next to me. I am of Navajo descent, and I think I may have seen what we believe to be ghosts that were warning me that something bad was about to happen within our family. But that doesn't explain the little green guy. If anyone has more information on what I may have seen, please let me know. Number 4. Phoenix, Arizona, December 5th, 2014. According to local residents throughout the metro area, sightings of a leprechaun roaming the streets of Phoenix, Arizona was reported since August of that year. Witnesses describe what appeared to be a small man about 2 feet tall, dressed in a greenish suit and pointy hat. Some residents went into more details and said he had a red beard and smelled like wet dirt. I was leaving my family bookstore when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this creature runs right in front of me, stopped, and turned back to look at me. This thing smiled and then continued to run, says a woman who wanted to remain anonymous. Another anonymous witness claims, "It was a little creepy, you know? I've never seen such small people in my life, and I thought leprechauns were only part of the fairy tales, but this man I saw was as real as my nose." An account by a younger witness 10-year-old Amy Turner goes as follows. He was funny. He was speaking or singing and was running towards a bush, but before he jumped in, he stopped, turned, smiled at me, did a little dance, and then he immediately disappeared into that bush. The story takes a darker turn with the next man who claims that his daughter disappeared after the last leprechaun sighting in the Moon Valley area. My daughter Karina, along with her friend, disappeared after following this little man. According to their friends, her friend's niece was running away from home and the pair was following her, but instead of finding her, they also disappeared. Number 5. I was living in an old apartment in a small eastern Oklahoma town at the time of this story. My then fiance and me were in our bedroom playing grab ass or whatever on the bed, just fooling around and wasting time. Our bed was pushed against the back wall. We were giggling and talking, and I happened to glance over to my right, at the door. Lower down, peeking its head around the dresser, was the head of a little man. It didn't look quite as purposefully scary as the Leprechaun on the cover of that crappy B-movie, but it was close enough that it's the best way to describe its face and height. From where I laid, I was able to get a pretty clear look at that face, as well as a hand that reached around the dresser that it was standing behind. I remember the evil-looking smile that it had. It had a big grin on its face as it looked at us. I can't remember what the hair was like, or see much else besides the head and the hand, but that smile was what stood out the most. All this happened in about a second or so, because when I glanced over there, my head was already turning back to my fiancé. I had to do a double take, but it wasn't there when I looked back for the second time. I immediately thought my mind was seeing things, but this was very unusual and very specific. I was not in a spooky mood, and the outline of the dresser was very flat, so there was nothing that protruded out in a way that could have tricked my eyes. I was so sure of what I saw that my fiancée noticed I stopped goofing around with her so suddenly. She asked me what was wrong. I whispered that I saw something, and to keep talking and laughing like we had been, so that whatever it was wouldn't suspect we were onto it. I tried to rationalize what I had seen, thinking maybe it was a man, or perhaps a midget, or something in my apartment, because what else could it be? I checked the doorway and found nothing. My head was pounding and my tongue tasted funny. I'm guessing it was from the adrenaline. I grabbed my 12-gauge shotgun out of the closet and checked the entire apartment, which was on the bottom floor of the building. And I found nothing. All of the doors and windows were still locked, and I couldn't find any obvious places of entry. I should also add that I'm an agnostic atheist, and I'm a pretty big skeptic as well. I generally look for rational explanations, but beyond my mind randomly making this one up, I'm out of reasons. I honestly have no idea what happened or what I could have seen. Nothing like that had happened before or since. I was in my mid to early 20s, and now I'm 34. It's been so long since then, and nothing like that has happened, so it doesn't bother me like it used to. As the memory fades little by little, it's easier to comfort myself and say that it was just my eyes playing tricks on me. But I'll admit, there is a small part of me that wonders if I had really seen what I thought I had seen that day. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this week's special holiday video. If you did, be sure to destroy that like button down below, and subscribe for more videos. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in hearing my take on certain Netflix movies, in particular the one that everyone's talking about called Veronica, you can check out my review on a new app called Stardust. I'll leave a link in the description below. If you download the app or already have it installed, you can follow me at Nope2Creepy, and I'll follow you back. Let's share our ideas of what's scary and what's not, huh? Until next time, everybody, stay safe out there. I'll be seeing you in the next video.